Good evening. I would like to call this meeting to order. May I have approval of the agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? A motion carries. Dennis, can I please have Pledge of Allegiance?
You weren't going to show up? Yeah, I'm going to have to get up during one of the presentations.
Jen, do I not have any announcements? Okay, next.
Good evening. We hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. Here at the School District of Beloit, we are very thankful for our students, staff, families, and volunteers. We are very excited to announce that our district and school websites recently received makeovers over this week. The new look makes it easier to navigate and find information on all the sites. Shop with a Hero is this Saturday at the Beloit Walmart. This is a community collaboration between the area school districts and local police and fire departments. Students were nominated by Student Services and will have the opportunity to shop with a police officer or a firefighter for gifts for their choosing. Next week, an annual holiday favorite returns to Beloit Memorial Auditorium. Miracle on 4th Street is a special performance event featuring Beloit Memorial Band, choir, orchestra, and theater students. It happens to be at 7:30 p.m. on December 8th and 9th. Tickets are $8 for adults and $5 for seniors and students. Our athletic department launched a new fan gear site on Cyber Monday. Be sure to visit them at their website, www.beloitschools.net/athletics for more information. Over the next few weeks, winter concerts will be taking place at all of our schools. Concerts are listed on the homepage at www.beloitschools.net. Join us for a concert or two this season. There are many events happening all around our district. We encourage you to watch our district website and Facebook pages for more information. This concludes tonight's announcements.
Thanks, Wendy. I inadvertently skipped an item, so let me backtrack just for a moment. We need to approve additional board representatives for the Equality Committee membership. Can I get a motion for that? It's one up. Yep.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. So now I am back on track. Jen, thank you.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the Board of Education. It is my pleasure always at these meetings to read recognitions. So we have a lot of guests in our house tonight. The first group that we are recognizing will be the Safe Schools Healthy Students Core Management Team. This group of individuals have worked very diligently for the past 4 years to promote mental health wellness throughout the district and the community. The team has been absolutely amazing, and they've achieved quite a bit in this time. And although the grant is coming to a close, I am assured by our coordinator, Sean Fredericks, that the hard work of this group will continue. The team under Sean's leadership has worked tirelessly with passion and insight to improve the lives of our students, our families, and our community. Some of the examples of their work in action include they helped to expand opportunities for early childhood. They instituted the Counseling Care Center at the high school, created professional development opportunities through the Yes Summit, shared expertise during professional development days, revitalized the efforts of Y2Y in health classes, and supported restorative practices, and so much more. It is an honor that we get to recognize this group of individuals tonight because we are very appreciative of their commitment to our district and their hard work. I'd like to invite Sean Frederick up to assist me with this. I know, nothing like putting you on the spot. Would you like to read names, or would you like to hand out certificates?
Either is great.
Why don't you read names, because you know these folks.
Okay.
That would be fantastic. So Sean is going to read your name, and then if you come stand up in front of the podium so that the television camera can pick you up and the public can see and love on you for a minute. Let me lower that for you.
Move it up a little. No. Okay. I'm going to read off all names, and so if someone's not here, they wanted to be and they're here in spirit. Tasha Bell, Jennifer Cummings, Debbie Fisher, Tammy Flanders, Lindsay Stevens, Karis Halley, Lynn Hamilton, Dorothy Harrell, Emma Harrell, Lamika James, Claudia Klein, Kelly Klingel-Smith, Holly Minot, Molly Polyak, Eve Smith, Dan Mullen, Carol Mishler, Laura Neese, Jen Papke, Mark Perry, Robert Pickett, Cecilia Ramirez, Betsy Schroeder, Dan Stoffaker, Robin Stutt, and David Wilson. And seriously, they are amazing people, and as a crew, what we have gotten done is spectacular. So, my honor to read the names.
Is that okay?
You look like you were going to say something to this.
I was.
Please do.
I just want to say thank you to all of you, and I know on behalf of Dr. Johnson, if he was here, he would say the same thing because he always talked about the great work that you all were doing. But I also want to say a special thank you to Ms. Fredericks for your leadership, and I also want to say thank you for the work that you all have done around the LGBTQ community to give voice to the voiceless. So I really appreciate that, in addition to all the other things that have already been mentioned. So thank you.
I would just like to add that if you're in the front hallway of Colac Center, you can take a look. There's actually a visual presentation of what this committee has been up to for the last few years, and their work is very impactful and meaningful. So I encourage everybody to be in Colac to check it out. We have a couple more recognitions tonight. Our girls golf team had a wonderful season, and there are definitely a few standouts. 2 Beloit Memorial High School students were recently recognized by the Golf Coaches Association of Wisconsin as academic all-state honorees with high honors. The 2 outstanding student athletes are Lizzie Sage and Chloe Day. Ladies, could you please come forward? If you'd come stand here. And I think I would be quite remiss if I didn't invite their coach to come along. So Coach Todd Clary, if you'd come up with your ladies. Ladies. So these students were nominated by coaches if they met the following criteria: a cumulative grade point average of at least 3.25, participation in at least 75% of their team's varsity matches, and are at least a sophomore in high school. Lizzie and Chloe are student athletes who serve as great examples to our other students. They prove that academic and athletic successes are not mutually exclusive, that they go hand in hand. The Coaches Association announced that 305 girls from 97 high schools in our state have been honored this year for maintaining high academic standards in the classroom while competing in varsity golf. In fact, the average cumulative GPA of this year's honorees is an exceptional 3.785. We are really grateful for Coach Clary's leadership of his team, and we're very proud of these young women. Chloe? Welcome. Coach, did you want to say anything about your ladies?
First of all, thank you for recognizing these 2 outstanding young ladies. Both young ladies have maintained a 4.0 grade point average. This is Chloe's 3rd year, and again, with a straight 4.0. This is Lizzie's 2nd year being honored, and I know she'll be honored next year as well. To maintain a 4.0 while competing in sports is a testament to not only the type of young people that they are, but we're going to recognize and know some other young ladies tonight for the swim team, and they've had outstanding success both in the pool and in the classroom. So these young ladies represent Beloit Memorial, their families, and their school with great pride, and it's with great honor that I can say that I get to coach these young ladies. And Chloe, we'll miss you.
Thanks, ladies. Well, as Coach mentioned, girls swimming also had a fantastic season with 4 swimmers advancing to state under the leadership of Coach Kim Waite and assistant coaches Dick Vogel and Brian Michaels. These ladies are also exceptional in the classroom and in the pool, and we would like to publicly recognize the following swimmers for advancing to the state competition. Ladies, can you come down and some of you are going to have to help me with your names, if that's okay, because if we're going to talk about you on TV, I want to make sure I say your names correctly. Coach, do you want to come up and introduce your ladies? I definitely don't want to mess up a name on TV.
All right, so our 200 freestyle relay qualified for state, and we have 3 out of the 4 ladies who qualified. We've got freshman Jada Bessel, her sister Amaya Bessel, and Claire Santis, and then Heaven Wells was the 4th, and she is unable to make it tonight. And then we have our alternates, Mackenzie Phelps and Caitlin Landon and Sydney Prowse.
Make sure we recognize them. Heaven, who was not able to be here tonight, I was told she recently signed on to swim at UW Milwaukee. So I'm told by Coach Beard that that's a pretty big deal. So we're pretty excited for her. So we are grateful to these coaches behind me, and we are definitely Beloit proud of all these women here tonight. So.
All right, I want to bounce
Oh,
back.
wait a minute.
Oops.
Coach Waite or Coach Vogel, I can't believe nobody wants to say anything. What?
You can't believe Coach Vogel doesn't want to say something?
Right?
It's not March yet. Our academic awards don't come out until March and June. But we have 12 seniors on the girls' swim team, and it's just been an amazing group of young women, and we get, unlike a lot of team sports, we get to know our kids since they were like born, just about. You know, I remember when Cindy was born, and they've been, doing this for a long time. You know, we have established a great club program and our middle school program. They've all come through that. It's not just myself or Kim and Brian. We have our club coach, Kathy Landon, and Benji Klett with middle school, and Andre DeCoke, and Lisa Moore, and Lindsay Hassenfeld. This is not just us up here. These kids have been doing it for a long time, and it's a lot of fun. But every year it gets very emotional because the group gets bigger and bigger every year. We had, 36 young ladies swim this year at a very high level. And we had to go, these alternates just missed going to state themselves. I know Sydney broke the school record for freshmen in the 100 breast, and Katie Landon, she just missed the school record by about 0.4 of a second in the 500 freestyle. It was a great year for these ladies, and we have a nice core coming back. Academically, I think every single senior has a GPA at least a 3.5 or higher. And we should have quite a few academic All-Americans as well as All-Staters this year academically. So it's been a lot of fun. We're going to really miss them. And I don't want to say too much more yet right now because hopefully we'll be back here in the spring to talk about that again.
So I want to say something quickly, which is I know most of these young women, and I have gotten to know some of them this year because my daughter swam for the first time. I have a cold. And it has been my pleasure getting to know some of you. And the upperclassmen have served as excellent role models. And y'all need to know that whatever you're doing it very well. So congratulations to all of you. Well done.
All right, moving on to the next agenda item. I need a motion to change the December board meeting schedule.
Sorry. Move approval.
Second.
So, and just to clarify, the move is to move the board business meeting to Tuesday, December 19th. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I am now on to the part of the agenda for citizens or delegations to speak. Do I have anybody interested to speak in the audience? Okay. So I have to read this script, so just bear with me while I read this, and then we'll cue you to speak, okay? So the Board of Education is now at the place on the agenda where we will receive public comments from individuals or delegations on areas of interest that are not on the agenda. The Board of Education will generally not respond or act on items that are not on tonight's agenda. Appropriate items will be referred to administration or one of the board's committees. Persons wishing to speak on one of the posted agenda items may do so as items are called by the board president. While the board and district welcome public comments, we as a board also must ask that you exercise care in your comments that relate specifically to district employees or persons connected with the school system. In order to protect the rights of these individuals and in the interest of complying with open meetings law on prior posting of items for consideration at this meeting, the board reserves the right to end comment on such topics. The use of specific names of district personnel may lead to legal liability on the part of the speaker. The board would also remind the public that the board has existing procedures in place to dispose of legitimate complaints against staff members and persons related to the system. Persons desiring to speak should complete the public comment card, hand it to the board secretary, and then proceed to the podium. You will then need to clearly state your name and address for the record before beginning your comments. Each person is asked to speak no more than 3 minutes unless you are using an interpreter. So if you just tell us your name and address and take the floor, okay?
Good evening, and thank you kindly. My name is Kay Nightingale, and I live at 2370 Lathers Road. I'm a lifelong Beloiter, and along with my husband Tom and our 2 adult children, we are proud products of the School District of Beloit. But before my remarks, I would like to give our personal prayers and thoughts to Dr. Tom Johnson. He truly is indeed one of Beloit's finest. I've come tonight out of deep concern for our school district. We've become a 2-star district in a very competitive 5-star world. I'm troubled that we have lowered the expectations for our students and that we aren't listening well enough to our magnificent cadre of professional educators and staff. It's distressing to us that discipline seems out of control, with little coherence to policy or little adherence to policy and procedure. There's an anxiety that exists about school safety in a culture that seems to be coarsening every single day. But most of all, we're concerned that there doesn't seem to be anything that truly unifies us. From the Board of Education to the classroom, we see a lack of universal, fundamental values that should bind us together and that we all hold in common, things that unite us. We're very good in our district at finding all the differences among us. It's reflected in our district's mission statement language: sex, race, ethnicity, national origin, ancestry, color, religion, pregnancy, marital or parental status, socioeconomic status, gender nonconformity, sexual preference, or physical, mental, emotional, or learning disability. And while we are surely strengthened by that diversity and we celebrate it, are we inadvertently dividing and subdividing ourselves into so many categories of people that we may be forgetting the common bonds that unite us as fellow human beings? Exposure to a range of ideas is critical. Limiting ideas is hazardous. As an example, I refer to this year's plan for the Martin Luther King Unity Breakfast to be held in January. The Daily News reports to us that this year's speaker is a former NBA star who refused to stand for the national anthem in the 1990s. And I'm thinking to myself, how does that unite us? Or does that just further divide us? And if meant to expose students to a particular point of view, it begs the question, where is the opposing viewpoint from another speaker on this very divisive subject? Certainly, where politics is concerned, students deserve to hear all sides. They deserve a wide range of ideas, not a limitation of ideas. Margaret Mead said it once many years ago, children must be taught how to think, not what to think. Our nation has, since its inception, back in the 1700s, one of our nation's mottos, E pluribus unum, out of many, one. It's written on all our coins. I would suggest we have a lot of pluribus. Where is our unum? E pluribus unum, out of many, one. Maybe that's our problem. What do we do that we share in common? What binds us all together? As elected officials, I challenge this body to unify first as a school board. Then I challenge you to discover together what unifies this district. Everyone, students, staff, parents, all of us, as opposed to acting on what divides us. Perhaps then we'll become a 5-star district where strong character, integrity, and success will become our reality, will become our unum. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Moving on, is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Okay, then I'm going to move on to the next agenda item, which is Superintendent's Report to the Board. Dr. Williams?
Good evening. Good evening. We have a couple of reports that we're going to give tonight, and we'll start off with the summer school report from Mr. Buns and the academic achievement update, and followed by Jen Papke with student engagement and the equity update from Ms. Tasha Bell. So we'll go in that order.
Good evening, members of the board and Interim Superintendent Dr. Williams. Tonight, I will provide an end of summer school 2017 programming review and reflection report. The next slide outlines the goals of summer school. The two goals to improve programming and increase number of days and minutes and creating convenient and interesting opportunities for families and students are goals that were successfully met. The goal to improve student performance was not consistently tracked at the elementary and intermediate levels. Starting with Summer School 2018, a process will be developed and implemented to report and track student performance at all levels. I will discuss at a later point in the report the goal to increase enrollment. The next slide lists the summer school sites for 2017. Of special note was the 8-week summer school program specifically for students in the Hackett and Merrill attendance centers. Pardon me? Can't hear me? Louder? Okay. Let me start again from the beginning of the slide. The next slide lists the summer school sites for 2017. Of special note was the 8-week summer school program specifically for students in the Hackett and Merrill attendance centers. K-8 core classes in math and literacy was offered as morning programming, and enrichment classes were offered in the afternoon. Next one. Various methods of communication about summer school were used. The district website, as well as face-to-face contact during parent-teacher conferences, were effective methods used at the elementary and intermediate levels. Secondary level communications consisted of teacher recommendations during conferences, counselor and principal contacts with parents, as well as the use of their webpage. The bilingual flyers proved to be an effective communication tool. Next one. The Professional Development Day for K-8 staff was a first-time event and will be continued in the future. New employees to the district received technology training. Staff attended sessions related to the content area of math, literacy, and hands-on science that they would be teaching. Secretaries attended a refresher orientation on medicine distribution and first aid. All secondary staff received an orientation handbook that outlines summer school procedures for staff and students. The next two slides, as mentioned previously, outline the elementary and intermediate course offerings, as well as the numerous enrichment classes. The next slide provides information regarding instructional resources in literacy and math that were used at K-8 levels. Grades 9 through 12 use the computer program Odyssey in the credit recovery classes. The next slide details enrollment numbers. Unfortunately, we did not achieve our goal of increased student enrollment. Our student enrollment for 2016-17 was 1,645 compared to 1,928 students enrolled in 2015-16. This represents a difference of 283 students. One contributing factor was the confusing two-step process to register students and then a separate step for class selection. Corrective measures will be put in place to remedy the situation by implementing a one-step process for registration and course selection. Notification to parents to confirm enrollment of their child will be improved. We will once again use centralized registration for elementary, intermediate, and for the first time, we will include the secondary level to ensure proper registration procedures are followed and students are accurately counted and entered into the appropriate data system. The next two slides highlight Hackett and Merrill enrichment opportunities. Please note that numerous activities were community-based field trips. Gaston also offered various enrichment field trips, including Shed Aquarium, Green Meadows Farm, Overt Gardens, and Cave of the Mounds. All three schools reported an enthusiastic response from students who participated and a tremendous parental support. The next four slides explore considerations for improvement for future summer school endeavors. We must look at the secondary summer school program. Specifically, we will look at credit recovery and entry-level courses for ninth grade students. Another area of consideration is creating transition classes for incoming 7th and 9th grade students to familiarize them with the day-to-day experiences that they can expect to encounter at their intermediate and secondary level. We must also look at a way to replicate in summer school the PK6 bilingual program for students enrolled during the regular school year. The last two slides provide information about our projected planning schedule for the 2017-18 summer school. Our first planning meeting is scheduled for December 13th. Please note that the projected plan is to start registration and course selection for intermediate and elementary in early February and at the secondary level in March. The application process for professional and support staff will start in March so that staff can be secured early in the process. That concludes my 2017 Programming and Reflection report. Are there questions?
Dennis?
Yes, can Jamie come up and give us the budget snapshot of summer school? I sent an email and requested that information.
So the fiscal information for summer school will be presented in detail at the December Finance, Transportation, and Property Committee meeting.
Preliminary numbers? And I guess the reason why I'm asking is because if we're given a comprehensive report on summer school, we should have that information. Perhaps we should have tabled it, but are there any preliminary numbers as it relates to summer school?
We do have some preliminary numbers. We're trying to work through the student enrollment to accurately calculate how much revenue we've received. Right now, it does appear that the district has a loss in summer school. So before we give a full fiscal report, we want to be able to have all of our numbers.
Thank you, Mr. Berkeley, for the presentation. Mr. Bonds, I want to ask you this question.
Yes.
So I want to be careful in us saying that if there was a loss or not, because I think it was a year or two ago, I was at a workshop and they talked about the role that summer school plays in closing the learning gap. So we could classify it as supplemental instruction that enhances achievement. And so I'm not necessarily concerned if it's a plus or a plus or a negative, but I think that information should be given to the board so that we have the full snapshot. Mr. Bonds, in the presentation, the enrollment numbers went down. Could you explain why you think that's the case? And prepare us when we receive the numbers in December, why we should not be so concerned if it's a major loss. So I kind of threw you a little olive branch, but I said I think you should educate us on why we shouldn't be so concerned about that.
And at this point in time, I obviously am always concerned about financials. We have made the modifications to our summer school programming to not only provide a benefit for our students, to close that achievement gap. That's what we want to focus on when we're doing the programming and providing it for our students. And at the end of the day, it's as I shared last year, simultaneously, it is a benefit for the district financially if done well, if we can increase participation. And this year, we made a couple of decisions that we think impacted the overall enrollment. That's what really drives the financials around summer school. And as you could tell by some of the decisions we made last year, for example, if you want to go through some of the things that we decided to do was to increase the length of time for students throughout the day. So we went from 5.5 to 6 hours to 8 hours a day for summer school programming for our students. We increased the salaries for our teachers to encourage staff to participate in our summer school programming. We also purchased new resources because we wanted to enhance our programming. We made sure we purchased materials. Some of the things that Mr. Berkeley shared were math programming and other programs that were adopted. Those were new purchases, and they were one-time purchases that we had to make. Clearly, our enrollment did decline, and we believe that's due to location changes. For example, Fruzen Intermediate School was used the year prior. The school this year, Aldrich, had what we saw was a 150 student difference. So we believe there may have been a factor of the location of choosing Fruzen. Also, Todd and Robinson also had a decline in enrollment. So we know that's one of our goals this year is to make sure we are really determining sites and looking at how can we really enhance participation to maximize that participation. So some of our location decisions may have impacted it. We also added schools. Merrill was added, as well as Hackett in terms of summer school. That increased administrative costs for those schools. But overall, we know that at the end of the day, providing 1,600 of our students with additional programming is one of the ways that a lot of districts out there wish they could do to provide that experience and extra learning for our students. So while we are concerned about the financials, we're confident next year we will increase our enrollment and really be aggressive at getting our students to participate and our families to participate. And that's going to be done by how we rebrand our summer school, how we make sure we provide those initial course offerings for students, how we provide more enrichment classes to make summer school more exciting and fun for students. That was one of our goals this year, and we know we have a long way to go to continue that work. But we're confident that we will see a change.
So I have a follow-up, if I may. So based on your presentation, so we should expect losses, but maybe not large losses because of the investment that we're making, and we will reap those benefits when our achievement numbers come out, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And so I'm trying to help you there. Okay. The second question I have, but before I ask the question, I just want to go on the record to say that I'm very pleased with summer school, very pleased with Mr. Berkeley's leadership with summer school. People are talking about it in the community. I like how we're focusing on the academic achievement. I like how we're focusing on feeding the kids, staying later, wraparound services. So it's all those initiatives that play an important role in improving the academic achievement for all students in our district. Could you talk to the board, explain to the board how it's a struggle to get teachers to teach, and so one of the lures that you all offer is some teachers who live out of the district are able to let their students come to summer school?
Well, one of the incentives that we used was the increase in salaries. You know, at the end of the year, teachers, many teachers still appreciate, and they would tell you that they need that time to rejuvenate over the summer, and many opt to not teach in the summer. But in order to become competitive and remain competitive, one of the things that we did was to increase the salary to entice teachers to participate in. That's how we were able to fill those classrooms with the teachers that we needed. So that's one thing. Regarding staff members who have children in the district, as part of the discussion, we discussed if that would be an incentive that we would allow those staff members who taught in our summer school programming to have their kids attend our summer school programming. As it turns out, as a district, we have, as a practice over time, we have a number of of non-resident students participate in our summer school programming. It's been an established practice for what we have found for decades as a practice. So having those students of those teachers participate, we saw only an advantage. Okay. And there were, we believe, a handful of teachers that may have taken advantage of that.
And the reason why I asked you to explain that is because we had a discussion on it. I don't have a problem with it, but in the spirit of transparency, I think the board members and the community need to know that that's the case. I don't know if you all should change the policy. If it's a recruitment, if it's a carrot to help us in the recruitment, maybe you want to keep the practice the same, but the administration should look at it to see if they want to change it. If you want to keep it the same, then you can submit that recommendation at a later date. So it being the case that people have not paid in the past, so from today in the past, no one should have paid, and so going forward, the out-of-district students, if we would want some reimbursement dollars, that's a discussion that you all should have, and then could you all send that recommendation to us?
Yes.
Thank you.
And if I want to point out, that was also one of the considerations in one of the slides. We had that as a consideration, is to develop a process and fee structure for non-resident students as a consideration. And that's something that we would bring to the board moving forward if the board would support that or decide that they support having teachers and using it as a carrot, that we would do that.
Now, again, I'm not suggesting that you all develop a fee schedule. Right. If you believe that we should not have one, then you recommend that we should not have one. Absolutely. So it's within the liberty of the administration to make that recommendation.
Thank you.
Okay?
All just have a couple quick questions. I agree with Dennis that I don't think we need to look at this as a profit loss center, because if we're closing the achievement gap, this is no different than the school year, in my opinion. I am concerned that we had such a significant drop in the number of students. Are we reaching out to people that maybe went 2 years ago and didn't come last year, or do we do any sort of exit surveys to find out, did they not send their kids, for instance, because it wasn't at Fruzen this year, it was at Aldrich, or, we're as an administration, we're trying to figure this out, but I'm hoping that we're also reaching out to the parents and the people who sent or chose not to send their kids, because I think there's a lot of data out there that could be very beneficial.
Absolutely, and we agree. That's our plan, is to do a survey to our families and our students to find out what interests them and what would interest them to have their kids attend summer school.
But I'd like it to go a little bit further, I think, in people that, again, we have a list from 2015-16 that didn't choose to send their kid in 16-17. Why is that? I think we could make even a handful of phone calls to find that out, because I think that's important. So, I don't want just a blanket survey to every parent in the district. I think we need to make a concerted effort to those who chose maybe not to send their children this year, so we can get those numbers back up.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I know the topic is trying to help close the achievement gap through summer school. I have a suggestion, especially in the Hispanic community. There are parents in the Hispanic community who are very insecure to go up front and, how do I say it? Crap, I'm nervous again. My apologies. So I'll just take this as an example. My mother is very insecure and being very engaged in school. Like when I have theater, when there are opportunities for parents to be involved, correct? But she's insecure because of the fact that she speaks broken English. And I just I would believe it'll help increase, if the goal is to increase more students to enroll in summer school, I say we try to bring resources to those parents on learning English. If those resources are brought to the parents that they can learn English, it'll boost their confidence and they'll have more ambition to be involved in their daughter or son's school.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, towards the end of the presentation, the projected planning schedule, is this the same as it was last year? In other words, are students allowed to register earlier, or how is it different from last year? Thank you, Mr. Berkeley.
As I stated, I feel that one of the things that happened was that we didn't do a good job in our registration and allowing parents to have a one-step process as opposed to a two-step process.
Uh-huh.
So prior to 2015, we did have just a one-step process, and for some reason, we implemented the two-step process, which is very confusing to parents and also to staff. So we're going to consolidate that into one step, and so at the time they register, they then sign up for whatever classes they would like for their students to take.
Okay.
So I think that will make a big difference.
Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that.
Hey, look, Mr. Bonds, Mr. Berkeley, I just want to say thank you all for the work that you all have done with summer school. I mean, I've heard many positive comments over the course of the summer, and from our parents who really appreciate this opportunity, especially those who were at Hackett and Merrill with the extension. We know that we'll see some of those results in the years to come. I know a lot of times people think that the results are going to come next week, but that's not the case. It takes time, and so thanks for putting in the work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Berkeley. So now I would like to share some information regarding our Achievement Gap Ad Hoc Committee. I am sharing some initial recommendations from the Ad Hoc Committee. Just to give you a little background related to the committee itself. The committee was established in January of 2017 with the goal to examine and recommend actionable strategies to close the achievement gap in the school district of Beloit. Once we established the team was broken up into subcommittees, and there were 4 subcommittees. The Academic Achievement Committee, which oversees and look for strategies related to reading strategies, math implementation, supporting students who are advanced learners, and so forth. Our Parent, Family, and Community Engagement is pretty straightforward. Leadership and instructional capacity, as well as learning environment, which includes discipline and positive behavioral structures. The Subcommittee for Principal and Teacher Leadership Capacity focused on a number of areas, and they moved forward 3 recommendations. The first one was the implementation of a mentoring program for principals, the creation of a handbook for new administrators, and the exploration of a leadership training series for our administrators. The Subcommittee for Family and Community Engagement moved forward 1 recommendation, which was to implement a comprehensive volunteer program, starting with 2 new positions, a lead coordinator and a hub coordinator. The Learning Environment Committee moved forward 2 recommendations this time. One was to add additional staffing to support administrative and student services needs. The second recommendation was to investigate and implement a thoughtfully designed advisory program for our students. And the Academic Achievement Subcommittee, as you can tell, were pretty ambitious, and they moved forward 6 recommendations. The first one was to prioritize programs and resources for our early childhood education, that's grades 4K through 3rd grade, to study our 4K programming and to assess its effectiveness, that's 2 and 3. 4 is to create a strong literacy intervention program. 5th is to increase efforts to reduce school absences. And the 6th one was to collaborate with Beloit College and commission many research studies to look at the overall academic achievement gap in the school district of Beloit. So we were really excited about the work that the ad hoc committee engaged in over the last several months. Some of our next steps are to continue to research best practices and models, to continue to gather feedback and input from district staff as well as all community stakeholders, and to continue to develop the development of a comprehensive plan and list of actionable strategies to close the achievement gap to improve student performance.
Mr. Bonds, that's what I've been looking for. Excellent job. You guys have done a thorough job in looking at the interventions that are needed to close the achievement gaps. My hat off to you, sir.
Thank you.
I think we would be a little remiss if we didn't, at this point, thank all the community members who stepped forward to give their time to work on this. There are quite a few people, and they all deserve a lot of thanks. So we appreciate their time.
Absolutely.
So one of the things I said earlier that I think is worth mentioning again is that all the subcommittees or the subgroups of this ad hoc engaged with the research in their area and came up with strategies that are all research-based. And I think that as we plan or make a plan for the direction that we want to go in, paying attention to what has already been done, what research has already been done, will point us in the right direction. So again, thank you to all those community members that engaged in all that work. I appreciate that.
I also would like to say thank you to all those community members. And I say that because I want to say thank you for being a part of the solution. You've heard, you know what some of the issues are that we have within our district, and instead of sitting back talking about it, you stepped up to the plate and worked with us. And so I want to say thank you for what you have done and what you're going to continue to do. Thank you.
Excuse me, President Anderson, when I said thank you, I meant it to your committees as well. And I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge our Vice President, Ms. Klobuchar, who sits on the committee. So hats off to you for your good work with this as well.
Make sure you give me my clicker back. Is it in there? All right.
So you should be good to go. Do I need to change that?
I can do it.
No, it's probably done.
Oh, you need to go out there.
There you go.
I gotta decide where I want the microphone. Good evening. At last month's board meeting, Mr. Bond shared some of our district achievement data, and it was evident through what you saw that it's critical to keep the conversation going. How can we do better? And what might we be missing in the conversation when we talk about making progress? That's what brings me here tonight, to talk about student engagement. While I know my time is brief with you tonight, I'll be happy to come back at any time to share further. In the words of my boss, on time, on task, on a mission. So I have my notes to keep me from kind of floating over there with my conversation. And I want to give you a snapshot tonight of where we're at. So one quick point to make before we talk about engagement is to look at motivation. Motivation is defined as the purpose behind the engagement in an activity. So the motivation then brings us to the engagement piece, looking at how we're involved in the activity. And notice that that definition talks about the behavioral, emotional, and cognitive connection to that activity or anything that you are being engaged in. So those are critical parts in there. When we look through the lens through education at engagement, again, considering behavioral, emotional, and cognitive involvement, quite literally, we look at student participation in coursework, in activities, keeping up with what they need to do. It's looking at work completion, and it's really dependent on relationships at all levels between students, teachers, families, schools, and taking that to that greater level, those connections into the community and then back into the school. So we are one kind of fluid organization within the community as well. So if you ask some of my colleagues throughout the districts, whether they're in the school office, whether they're in the school cafeteria, whether they are on the playground, in the classrooms, because we know the most important work that happens in the district is wherever the kids are. And they'll tell you that some of those factors that impact student engagement is the climate in the school, are students being challenged, what are the mental health issues. That top picture is a mirror. Are students seeing themselves reflected in many different ways, whether it's their interest, whether it's their culture, whether it's their different elements of themselves? What trauma have they experienced? Are we meeting their basic needs? Is there that aspect of school safety that is a critical importance to us? And do we have someone who can say, I believe in you? I believe that we would also hear that unless we're willing to shatter some perceptions, it will always be difficult to truly engage students. And it's critical to believe from the start of this conversation that all students can learn, all students can succeed, and all students can fit into our schools. So when we look back at some of the original educational research that many current educators were kind of brought up on, Bob Marzano, telling us what the school level factors for success is: the guaranteed and viable curriculum, getting challenged in their goals but given ongoing and effective feedback, involvement in all directions, that safe and orderly environment, and then how are the staff working with each other, working with parents, and so on. We know that the factors that lead to engagement are driven by students feeling I can do what's being given to me. When I can't do it, I'm going to get supported. Activities are being brought to me based on some of my interests. I have a level of choice in what I'm doing in my classrooms, and what we're doing is connecting back to my life, my experiences, what I know. So these are some dimensions. We talked in the beginning about behavioral, emotional, and cognitive engagement, and kind of this you had in the packet to kind of look at emotionally, am I enjoying the class? Am I feeling comfortable? Am I wanting to do well? Behaviorally, am I actually able to sit and focus and listen and do the assignments and participate? And am I working hard? And then that cognitive piece, am I really thinking deeply? Am I investing myself into what I'm learning and then trying to get help for what I don't understand? So at this point, I want to transition to what are we doing in Beloit to address student engagement? And I'm going to focus on 4 areas here where we see engagement as a critical factor. We'll talk about multi-tiered systems of support, the importance of student involvement in many aspects of their educational career, how we look at the importance of staffing priorities and the intentional work that we do in that area, and then because the bulk of the work that I've done in the last 3 years has been with the Safe Schools, Healthy Students initiatives, looking at where we've been and where we're going and how that may align with the work of the ad hoc committee, how that works with other elements coming up and what pieces are definitely sustainable beyond the grant. So a multi-tiered system of supports can look at both the academic side and can look at the behavior side or that learning environment side. So you'll hear PBIS talking about the behavior side. You'll hear about response to intervention or RTI in the academic side. Knowing that these are tiered systems, we know that 80% of our students will get what they need at that universal level that everyone, 100% is getting. And as we go further up the pyramid, then we know we're providing more specific interventions to support students in small groups and in even individual ways. The pie piece there is hard to read that it says culturally responsive practices in the center. This is the Wisconsin's model of multi-level systems of support. They're going to put culturally responsive practices in the center of all that we do and then have all of the other pieces kind of surrounding that. So it's a more circular pattern that's coming in there. So all of our schools work hard to provide opportunities for students to find a place, students to find a home, students to find connection, and whether that be through athletic teams, drama, clubs, organizations, we have gaming clubs. Every intermediate school now has a gender sexuality alliance, formerly the Gay Straight Alliance. And this afternoon, this whole day, we spent time with representatives from every elementary school doing welcoming schools training so that at an earlier level we are opening and exposing students to literature and meaningful activities that open to different types of families, different types of students that they may experience over time to, create this bigger picture of diversity and equity within the school. So Amanda Celine created an amazing presentation for us today, and we gave our first group their presentation. So I'm actually working on compiling a very comprehensive list of how many kids are participating in every single thing all over the building or all over the district. We know that every school has a minority excellence organization. We know that LULAC has expanded at the high school and also has a partner in a LULAC organization for adults in the community. We know that MEO is always an organization that is growing. And again, how they're partnering with their younger colleagues at the other schools. So again, because my work was very closely tied to the Safe Schools, Healthy Students initiatives, then I want to talk about the different elements and the pieces that we did to serve students, which Jennifer touched on with our recognition tonight. So element 1 involved social emotional learning at the early childhood level. So we were able to screen students early prior to entering the schools. The pyramid model was a younger form of PBIS so that students were entered into that system early, and Me Moves is an excellent self-regulation and mindfulness program for students to create those routines within themselves. In element 2, we address mental, emotional, and behavioral health. Great success through the school-based health clinic. Second step, we were able to make some very positive upgrades and incorporate second step then into further elements with our PBIS systems so that we're not having all of these pieces running parallel to each other, but how are we really braiding them together to make sense? And definitely having trauma-informed classrooms be a piece that's continued as well. Element 3 highlights our community partnerships. We had the opportunity to work with the county's law enforcement agencies in the CIT, the Crisis Intervention Training, and then there's a select group who received the CIT-Y, so the youth element with that, and that was targeted towards school resource officers, as well as who would be the typical patrol officers during a daytime shift who may respond to a student who's in crisis that may be in a mental health situation. So we were able to work with them and partner in some of their training. Continuing with the Youth Emotional Stability Summit, our Good to Great Activate, growing every year. Our parent peer specialist, who does fabulous things for us, and that's truly bridging families who are hesitant to interact with the school district, perhaps because of their own experiences in school, perhaps things that maybe didn't go well with their other children when they were in school. And so now school is not this safe place. And Emma is this amazing person who says, let's do this together. And if we need to meet at McDonald's and do this first, I'm not going to drag you into the school, but we're going to do this together. So having an advocate who really understands the mental health system, the education system, and really bridges that together. So that's been a really key factor. And then AIU, the Accept, Include, and Understand Me group, meeting every single week with Sean. And then we have 4 Project AIU days through the year where we bring many students in to really dig into what does that peer-to-peer and peer-to-adult and adult-to-adult communication look like. Element 4 recognizes the need to intervene in behavioral health problems. So DITEP and SBIRT and Sources of Strength kind of tie into addressing AODA issues. And then youth to youth is a more preventative piece that comes in for us. So element 5, which is where I spent the most of my time, promotes safe and violence-free schools. So our latest efforts have really been how can we broaden our scope looking at welcoming schools for LGBTQ plus students, continuing our work with restorative practices, and looking at PBIS. Prepare is a model for training for school safety, and that's going to kind of tie into the school safety training that we do as an administrative team at the beginning of each year. So the bottom line is that we go back to that philosophy I kind of asked you to think about in the beginning. Can we wholeheartedly say that every one of us believes in every child from the moment they enter our school system until they cross the stage? Every child deserves for us to say, I believe every one of you can succeed, and we will work diligently to address your needs every day. So how do we capture the best staff and keep them? Staff who represent the continuum of all students we serve and who we are passionate to serve. And so I leave you with this. On behalf of the amazing students, families, and staff that make me Beloit proud, I appreciate your time. Question? Oh, I gotta go.
It's no secret that this is one of my favorite areas. And Jen, thank you for the presentation. Now I'm going to put you on the spot, okay?
Absolutely.
So we know that research state that student engagement is one of the most critical, important parts of academic achievement for all students across the board. do we need to heighten our student engagement initiatives and activities in this district? Are they good? They're great? They're subpar? Nobody's in the room but just me and you. Answer that, please.
I would say that my position is unique in that I only have 2 feet, but I pretend I have 3.
Okay.
So I live in the equity department, and I work very closely with the curriculum department and the pupil services department. And anyone, no matter where we work, you advocate for the island that you're on. And I'm in this position where I've got a foot on every island. And so I want to be a voice that can say, but are we looking at equity at this point? Are we looking at student voice in this point? How are we looking at student engagement? So we could have the very best curriculum, but have we met the social emotional needs of the students? And so I don't know if it's good, bad, or indifferent, inserted myself in different conversations and in different places so that I can make sure we're all aware of what each other is doing and how we can make sure that engagement keeps an active part of the conversation. Can we always do better? Absolutely.
And so, follow up, President Idris. So I like your comment, but I struggle with it because you said you had to insert yourself. If we're serious about true academic achievement, you shouldn't have to insert yourself. You should be at the table, and that should be one of the priorities. Because, again, the research says that that's one of the important factors to achievement. And so what do we need to do as a district to elevate student achievement? Student engagement so that we can have a greater impact on academic achievement?
I think have a deeper look in the buildings when going a little deeper into the data. And so are we looking at MAP scores straight by themselves, or are we digging into how long students are spending on them? And what is it that they want to be doing instead of that? And how can we build that interest? They may not be fully engaged in taking a test that they're not interested in, but how can we build the bigger picture of what's going to be the consequence of me doing well and making a good effort in here? What are the things that we need to see in the school where we're missing out on things? So we know we needed to go somewhere different to make sure that all of our LGBTQ students begin to further feel voice and a place in our schools. And might that have to start a little bit earlier? So we dug in and looked at, okay, what do we need to do there? What are other areas that we're missing on? So when we really dig into what are these organizations, clubs, sports, activities, what are things that other people want to do that might help them feel more engaged in school? What are classes that we're seeing like low attendance rates on? And then how can we kind of dig in and find out, why aren't you going to that class? What do we need to do different? So lots of pieces, but it's really digging in and watching and talking to kids and talking to parents.
Can I ask you one more question?
Sure you
can. One more question. I'm going to put you on the spot, but I know that
you already did, so
okay.
I'm ready here.
Okay. All right. So as I have sat in this seat and I've listened to a lot of people come forward and talk about discipline and how our schools are going in one direction, and some of the comments that people have made, I don't even think they realize what they're saying. And it's offensive, it's narrow-minded, it's troubling, because you have to look at the system and the student in its totality. And we know that students come with issues. And we know that we're asking teachers to do more with less. And we know that there's problems in the in families and the communities. And we know that our school district is reflective of our community. And through the town hall meeting and through people coming forward addressing these issues, I would always look at your facial expressions, and you seemed concerned. And what's your thoughts on all of that?
So I might feel like if I want people to be able to say, like if I want to put the right people in the right seats on my bus, then I want everyone who gets on my bus to be able to say, I believe every child can learn, and we will all teach them, and we will all recognize what they need, and we will work really stinking hard to do it. But if there's someone on that seat, in one of the seats, who's sitting there saying, but nothing ever happens when such and such goes to the office, then I feel like you've lost some belief. And so rather than, how do we open up more two-way dialogue that's positive and respectful about, okay, how can we create an intervention together? Because those interventions will better serve our students than the removals of those students. The more times we're removing a student from the classroom, they're not engaging with their peers, they're not engaging with the curriculum, they're now coming in a little bit behind or a little bit more behind because of the time they've missed, where instead we ask, so what are the interventions that we can provide? What are some brief interventions that we can do with student services staff, with others, with volunteers? There's lots of ways we could look at doing that. Using restorative practices, I would advocate hugely for, to then get you back into the classroom as soon as it is reasonably and safely possible so that you are learning again. And in that process, I think it's okay to say to the student, what can I do differently to keep you engaged in class? Because quite often, what are we asking? I need students to come to my way. I need you to come to the way I'm teaching. And instead, I think we need to work with our students and with our families to say, what works for our kids? And understanding the whole kid a little bit more. Does that help? Mm-hmm.
Jen, as always, thank you. You've taught me a lot over the last year or two, and I much appreciate it. Thank you.
Anytime.
Next, we'll have the equity report.
I would just like to say I think we all will be reaching out to PAFKey to help us create a slideshow. I don't have a slideshow. I am here to share more than a few highlights of things that have been happening in the world of equity over the past month or so. So one of the events that happened within our community was the Deaf to the N-Word event. It was held by local community leaders to encourage young people to be more positive, and our office was a part of that event that happened on October 21st. The school district presented at the YWCA Racial Justice Summit. Last year, we won the Dorothy Height Racial Justice Award, and as a reward, we were offered the opportunity and expected to present on diversity within the workplace. Our district also had 2 tables of people in attendance at this great event as well. Dr. Williams and I also presented at the Wisconsin Public Relations Association Conference on November 9th. We were able to highlight our district to public relations professionals from across the state of Wisconsin. Dr. Williams and I attended the Metropolitan Milwaukee Alliance of Black School Educators on November 18th. It was truly an awesome event, and they were definitely happy to have Beloit in the house, and we were happy to represent Beloit as well. 4 of our LULAC students and Tony Bosco led the Hispanic Heritage Month Assembly at Aldrich. It gave our high school students a chance to share about the value of Hispanic Heritage Month, and it showed younger children positive representation of students that look like them. We also hosted the Ho Chunk Indian Nation on November 7th and 8th. They led our primary schools and our high school in a powwow, and it was truly awesome. It was amazing. The students were actually able to participate and learn some of the dances. The following day, we had artisans in all of our intermediate schools and the high schools. Classes rotated throughout the day to see the beautiful works that they had created. We have already had schools reach out to us again to say, when are we doing this again? If we didn't get the artisans, can we have the powwow, and vice versa? So we are looking to continue our great relationship with the Ho Chunk Nation. Our LULAC students hosted the Day of the Dead community event featuring the Amiakan Dance Company at Cunningham Intermediate School. Our MEO and Latino mentoring program is up and running, and we have students placed at all of our grade levels. We also have our Beloit 100 volunteer initiative going, and we are asking community members of all ages to volunteer within our schools. After the Daily News ran an article about it, believe it or not, we had people calling in to say, I want in, what do I need to do? Please sign me up, and can I pick the grade level? So we do appreciate that great story from the Daily News, because we did gain some volunteers from that article. In October, we hosted our Parent Academy, which featured the Youth to Youth exhibit, Hidden in Plain Sight. And if you haven't seen it, I would encourage everybody to check it out. It allows parents the opportunity to spot the hidden dangers of addiction. And all of our parents that were there were amazed, and they were like, absolutely, this should be mandatory for every single parent. I didn't realize that there were so many ways to hide drugs within my child's room. I'm going home after this meeting to check my child's room. It was really great. Just this last week, the NAACP Education Committee met with us to go over the results of a self-assessment that the district submitted a report for, and this was led by Mr. Bonds. Our own Jen Thompson led our first Principal of the Day program, and I'm sure everyone has heard about that awesome program. Our community members were very excited to be within our schools, and I'm sure that our principals appreciated being able to show off their wonderful schools as well. We hosted our third annual Veterans Breakfast on November 10th. This event continues to be a well-attended event. We even had students from Robinson to write thank you cards to all of the veterans that attended. And just the look on some of the faces of the veterans when they received that little colored sheet of paper from those little ones, they're like, this is amazing. Thank you so much. We also have received a $5,000 donation to our Grow Your Own Scholarship from the Ho Chunk Indian Nation. So that's super exciting as we continue to look for people to support our students as they look to return to our district. And lastly, our second annual Dr. Martin Luther King Unity Breakfast is scheduled for January 15th. And we're asking everyone to please come out and support our student essay winners, as they will once again this year read their winning essays. And I think that everyone will be surprised and excited to hear from the views that our students have on this topic that is in our news every single day. And they have a voice, and it's important that we listen to how they feel about it on both sides of the issue. That's all.
So Tasha Bell, I want to thank you for your report, but you forgot to say something. I received a telephone call, and someone had asked me, why weren't you there? And you should tell the board and the public that the MMABSE awarded their prestigious Sarah Scott Leadership Award. They went outside of the city of Milwaukee, which they never do, and they awarded this prestigious award to someone. Can you tell the board who received that award?
Well, Dr. Baskin, I actually asked that someone if I could highlight that, and that person told me no, but since you asked me, I definitely will.
Yes.
That award was awarded to our very own Dr. Williams, who is also a lifetime member of that organization. So it was really awesome to see it. I didn't know. They announced it out, and the lady that I was sitting next to, she goes, look at him sitting there looking all unimportant. So it was truly awesome. And now that you've asked, definitely congratulations to Dr. Williams for earning such a prestigious award.
Word was.
Can
you not say the acronym? What does it mean?
Dr. Williams, you want to speak to it? You're the winner. I know he doesn't like this, but you take the heat on some things, and we should publicly acknowledge you on the things. I received a phone call, and this is one of the most prestigious awards in education in Milwaukee.
The Sarah Scott Leadership Award is given by MAPSE, the Metropolitan Milwaukee Alliance of Black School Educators. Sarah Scott, she was one of the first African-American administrator in the city of Milwaukee. And, you know, that award was very meaningful because I knew her son very well before he passed. And so that's the highest award that they give out for administrative leadership in the city.
I passed all the administrators in the Milwaukee School District and felt that it should be given to Dr. Williams.
You know, I just was just sitting here, and you know, my mother, she used to say this quote. She says, "A sad dog that won't wag his own tail." And I just want to, I just hope everybody in the listening audience heard the different presentations that were just given. All the work that has gone on into the focus on student achievement. You've heard a lot of people talk about discipline. I've been in education for 25 years. I don't think I've ever been anywhere in any school where discipline hasn't been an issue. But the question is, what do you do to address the discipline? And so over the past couple of years that we've been here, you can go inside of any one of our schools. Just recently, we had our principal for a day. We have parent walks every month. We have all these different initiatives in place to dispel that myth, because I've heard the same thing when I came here 3 years ago. Mr. Buns heard it, but whenever we walked around from school to school, I just did not see what other people were talking about. So we invite anyone to come inside of our schools. And some of the same people that were principals for a day and that have joined us on our parent walks, I can't tell you how many times we hear from people who say, I read about it in the paper, but I didn't see it. These schools are great. I want everyone in the listening audience to know that the school district of Beloit is still your first school district of choice. And it's that way because of you and all the options that we offer. This is a great school district. And if you haven't stepped inside of any of our schools lately, I challenge you and encourage you to do so, and you'll see for yourself.
Thank you. Couldn't agree more. Appreciate it. On to next agenda item, student board member report, please.
Good evening. Huh? Oh yeah, it does that. Okay. All right, so don't just talk about culture, experience it. So this is a fundraiser that this Miss Hoppy, who is a world history teacher and an AP Psych teacher, and is having this fundraiser to have students participate in an African dance class to teach them about different cultures around the world by bringing the Ko-Thai dance company to our school. Instead of just discussing culture, this would allow them to immerse themselves in it. So I thought that's a great idea that she's fundraising and being ambitious for it. I want to give a shout out to the teachers who tell me good morning or good afternoon throughout the day instead of just acting like you just didn't see me and not say hi. Okay. Boys basketball team has a home game this Saturday, and the theme is blackout. And I want to explain my experience so far in this volunteering program that I signed myself up for. So I've been going to Gaston every Tuesday at around 12:30 to 2, and there are so many of them. It's great. At first, I've been seeing them work on iPads for math, like Dreambox, and at first I was against it. And after today, playing on Dreambox, it's actually very engaging, and I was kind of addicted to it at one point. So it's nice seeing technology being used in everyday classrooms, because when I was in second grade, I was learning cursive. That's about it. And then moving on. And also, Beloit Memorial's Performing Arts program, like you mentioned, Wendy, that will be performing on the 8th and 9th of December at 7:30. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on, Equality Committee report, please.
All right, we had our November meeting on Monday, November 13th. As you all know, we confirmed our membership, so the members that were there, as well as I sent out an email just asking people, are you still in? And the majority of our members actually said they're still on the team and they're committed to the work of the Equality Committee. We also spoke about the Equity Recruitment and Retention Plan. That's something that the Equality Committee is very passionate about hearing updates about. So Dr. Williams provided us with an update and making sure that we all understand that in this stage is still a working document. And that plan was actually created as one of the recommendations from the Diversity Ad Hoc Committee. So we have had a few meetings where we have combined the Diversity Ad Hoc Committee with the Equality Committees to make sure that they understand that we're still committed to doing the work that they started. And we have also extended a formal invitation to the members that were a part of the Diversity Ad Hoc Committee to say, if you are interested, please join us on the Equality Committee. We also spoke to the group about the Dr. Martin Luther King Community Breakfast as well. We are always doing a plug for Beloit 100, made sure they had some forms available in case they want to take them out to their different organizations. Dr. Williams and I also shared a piece of the equity presentation that we presented at the YWCA Racial Justice Summit, just so that the committee can see the types of things that our district does when we go out and present things about our district. And we also always allow time for feedback within our community to make sure that they have a voice of things that they would like to hear. So we do have a few things that we will be addressing in upcoming meetings, such as body cams. People are interested in learning more about the HBCU trip and the outcomes of how many students actually attend HBCUs after attending these trips, as well as learning more about the recruiting efforts of the district. People are interested to learn more about the truancy officer position, as well as what kind of support the district will be providing for that position. And great concern in terms of how do we increase parental involvement throughout our school district.
Thank you very much. Next up, I need committee reports. May I have Finance, Transportation, and Property, please?
Finance, Transportation, and Property met on November 14th. Probably the only item of real note was we looked at the companies that we had for the Welcome Center RFP, and we moved to the full board to use Gilbank Construction as the construction manager for the Welcome Center.
Excellent. Curriculum and instruction.
We also met on November 14th. We had a pretty big agenda, so we had a couple of reports, the first being Mr. Bonds and Latricia Johnson gave us a presentation on what the district is currently doing in terms of our curriculum and spelling and handwriting. We also had some information shared with us from Mr. Bonds and Jacqueline Jolly about the human growth and development. And we moved to direct the administration to move forward with forming a committee to relook at that. We had several of the teaching staff that participated in that discussion. We dissolved, we dissolved our ad hoc committee of Students on the Move as its charge was completed. We approved applications for youth options for the second semester of this year, and that was about all. Thank you.
Excellent. Policy and Personnel, please.
The Policy and Personnel Committee met on October 24th. We addressed the athletic and activity fees and support. Mr. Beard came in, our athletic and activities director came and gave a report. We addressed and approved the personnel recommendations. We have for future items for discussions, contracts and performance evaluations, policy for unpaid athlete fees and participation. If I could add, President Indris, we found out tonight that there's going to be a work group, so more information is going to come later as it relates to that. The Policy and Personnel Committee also met on November 14th. We approved the October 2017 minutes. We went into closed session to deal with personnel matters. We dealt with additional allocations, the hire of a part-time educator at McNeil because of the increase in student numbers. We discussed and approved the support bilingual families issue. It actually was the family support specialist position. We also addressed the one FTE for the DLI programming at Fruzen. We dealt with some policies for first and second read. For first read, we looked at policy 353.3 that deals with language access policy. Policies for second read, we dealt with policy 187, which deals with public participation at board meetings. And we dealt with policy 824, Rule 1, that deals with procedures for access to public records. Mrs. Salas, our Human Resource Director, gave a phenomenal update on our affirmative action report. She actually changed the report. The structure included information, so we're very pleased at that. And then the last item that we dealt with is we looked at the Director of School Health job description. The board wanted to work with the administration to make sure that the appropriate degree level was in that job description. Future items for discussion was the equity, diversity, recruitment, which we're going to deal with in December. We're going to deal with body cameras, hiring, promotion, transfer policy, and a compensation workshop. That's it.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion to approve the consent list, please?
I'll move approval.
Second.
I'll move approval of the consent list, including special board meeting October 24, board business meeting October 24, special board meeting November 2, special board meeting workshop November 9, special board meeting November 14th, and the September financial summary.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to business action items. May I have a motion? Does somebody want to move to include a number of these?
Can I, point of order, 9B was not
Correct.
included with an asterisk. Do we want to approve that now? Special board meeting, the budget hearing, October 24.
I thought you read that off, no?
No, and there was no asterisk, that's why I didn't.
Okay. So I will.
Move approval.
Second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries for
President
special.
Indris, I would like to entertain business action items B, C, D, and E. I'm holding off on F because there's a reason.
Perfect. So the motion would be for business action items, donation of land, students on the move ad hoc committee dissolution, youth options for second semester 2017-2018, and policy 187, public participation at board meetings, second reading. All those in, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Could we get an explanation about the donation of land?
The donation of land is a formal approval for the donation of land from 2020 for the Welcome Center project.
Thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
President Indris, I would like to move to table policy 481, the student work permit, because it needs to be in line with the forms that students fill out. So can we table, get it corrected, and get it back in the queue?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to special education FT increase for Todd.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Personnel recommendations?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Discussion items, items of interest for consideration at future board meetings.
Yes, I asked for this once before, but I don't know if it's in the works or whatever, but a presentation on how Beloit School District is working with Career Tech to support our students in benefiting from the programs they offer. A return discussion to the board on the third-party exit interviews, and something that came up tonight at our meeting with our representatives. I would really like if Ms. Morath could explain to us how vouchers affect our local taxpayers and the funding that we receive. Thank you.
Excuse me, President Indris, it would be most appropriate that the exit interview discussion go to policy and
That's
personnel
fine.
before the full board.
Yeah.
And Board Member Charles, I told you that it's in the queue, but there are other things that we need to address. And if my memory serves me correctly, Vice President Klobuchar, you can remind me, but we said that we're going to let it play out for 6 months and then review it later. Was that right, Vice President Klobuchar? Yes. Is that right, Ms. Salas? So I think we need to honor the 6 months, and then when the 6 months expires, I plan to put it on the agenda for policy and
Okay,
personnel.
if that isn't passed already, it's coming up. That's the only reason I asked for it. And policy and personnel is great. I just didn't get to ask for it in your committee.
Well, you already had the discussion with me and asked me, it's in the queue, but
Okay.
it's not gonna come as fast as you want it, but there's other things that's in the queue before that, okay? So if I may ask, President, just that we hold on addressing on the full board and deal with that policy and personnel.
Will do. Anybody else? All right. Moving on, announcement of future board meeting dates. Committee meetings will be December 12th and include finance, transportation and property, curriculum and instruction, policy and personnel, and the business meeting will be on December 19th. I would like to adjourn this meeting. Thank you.